Last run of the day. You've been out here since morning, same stretch of marsh you know better than your own street, and the light is doing something worth watching, so you let it. 20 minutes to the ramp, plenty of time. Nobody is watching the gauges. The voltage gauge has been sitting low for the last 10 minutes. You figure it's a bad sensor. You've seen it flicker before. The launch ramp is 20 minutes out. You'll make it. The belt doesn't warn you. There's a sharp crack, a smell of burnt rubber, and then the roar drops to silence so fast your ears ring. The boat glides, slows, wedges into the sawgrass with a dry, scraping hiss, and the light is already going. This isn't a highlight reel of alligator close calls. This is a Twilight to Dawn survival sequence. What actually happens, hour by hour, when the one machine keeping you above the swamp stops working. The danger isn't the engine, it isn't the water, it isn't what's swimming in it. It's the decision made in the next 10 minutes. The ringing stops. The swamp fills in around you, dry sawgrass scraping in the faint breeze, the low sulfurous exhale of the muck below the waterline. Your legs are already coiled. One boot is already off the deck. This is the instinct that kills people in swamp strandings. Not the alligators, not the dark, the instinct to move. Here's what plan continuation bias does to an airboat operator. The voltage gauge dropped 10 minutes ago. The belt was fraying for weeks before that, but the launch ramp is close. You've pushed through before. You rationalize each warning until the engine makes the decision for you, and it makes it here. 12 miles deep in a marsh with no navigable channel within walking distance. The Everglades isn't a forest floor with a few inches of water. It's a slow-moving river millions of acres wide over a limestone base, and the substrate beneath the water is deep anaerobic muck. Step off this deck and you will sink to your waist. The sawgrass will close around you in seconds. You will have no sense of direction, and every step tears the silica edges of the sawgrass across your skin. So you stay on the boat. That is not a failure to act. There's a name for it in wilderness medicine: active passivity. A deliberate, conscious choice to hold position, preserve every resource, and wait for the moment when action will actually work. The deck is the only stable terrain left in 1,000 acres of sawgrass. Stay on it. The air sits on your skin like a warm, wet cloth. You're not moving, you haven't moved in an hour, but the sweat beads along your collarbone and just stays there. It doesn't dry, it doesn't cool anything. When the dew point sits at 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is standard for the Everglades in summer, evaporative cooling shuts down. Your sweat cannot evaporate into air that is already saturated with moisture, so it pools, and your core temperature keeps climbing. As your blood volume drops from continuous unevaporated sweating, your heart struggles to push heat to the skin. Core temperature spikes. Heat exhaustion becomes heat stroke, and heat stroke without cooling and fluids kills. You don't need to run a single step for this to happen. Sitting completely still in this air is enough. Shade everything you can. Use any fabric on the boat to cover your head and shoulders. Stop all unnecessary movement. Ration whatever water you have on board, small sips, not gulps. Your job is to keep blood volume up and core temperature from spiking until the rescue window opens. Now there is water everywhere around you, and wilderness survival doctrine says to boil surface water and drink it. Do not do this here. The Everglades has decades of agricultural sulfur runoff embedded in the ecosystem. That sulfur converts atmospheric mercury into methyl mercury, and it is dissolved in every drop of this water. Boiling does not remove heavy metals, it concentrates them. The more water you boil away, the more toxic what remains becomes. You hear it before you feel it. A high-pitched whine rising out of the sawgrass, first far away, then surrounding you, then inside the boat. The mosquitoes come at twilight in the Everglades like a weather event. Researchers have recorded trap captures exceeding 300,000 insects in a single night. Localized swarm density can hit 150 landings on a human subject per minute. The physical blood loss is secondary. What breaks people is the psychological torment, the overwhelming, unrelenting pressure to swat, flee, throw yourself toward the water just to escape the sound. That pressure is what drives stranded boaters off the deck. And off the deck is exactly where you cannot go. Past the bow, 2 points of light appear just above the waterline. Orange-red, motionless. That is bioluminescent eye shine from an alligator's tapetum lucidum, the reflective layer at the back of the eye. Alligators hunt by sensing pressure waves in the water. As long as you stay elevated and still on the deck, you are not generating those waves. You are not a signal. You are not a target. Endure the swarm. Every instinct will tell you to move. The discipline is choosing not to. The deck is the perimeter. Hold it. Because even a single scratch from the sawgrass changes the math entirely. Imagine a thin red line across an ankle, barely felt, sawgrass fine, and then a ripple of dark water reaches it. Vibrio vulnificus is a bacterium in warm, brackish Florida water. It enters the bloodstream through exactly this kind of laceration, a sawgrass cut, a scrape against the hull, anything that breaks the skin. Once it reaches the bloodstream, the fatality rate is approximately 50%. That is not a statistical edge case. That is a coin flip with your life. There is a second organism in this water called Pythium insidiosum, sometimes referred to as swamp cancer. It is not a true fungus. It is an aquatic oomycete that releases motile zoospores. Those zoospores actively seek out damaged mammalian tissue. They insist on an open wound. They grow. And because they resist standard antifungal treatment, the routine medical response is amputation. This is the real medical reason the golden rule of swamp survival exists. Never leave the boat, not because of alligators, not because of the dark, because the water itself is the threat. If you pick up any cut from the sawgrass, from the hull, from anything, cover it immediately. Keep it dry. Keep it elevated above the waterline. You've managed the heat. You've held the perimeter. You've guarded any wound. But right now, none of that saves you if the only thing searching for you is a thermal sensor drifting somewhere over 1,000 acres of identical sawgrass. It is deep night and you feel it before you hear it, a low rhythmic thump vibrating through the humid air, through the hull, into your chest. Rotors. A helicopter is working a search grid somewhere to the north. Do not shout. Rotor noise runs close to 100 decibels at ground level. Your voice disappears into it completely. And the humid air of the Everglades attenuates sound rapidly. What carries clearly in dry air barely travels a few hundred meters here. The crew cannot hear you. They are not listening for you. Florida search and rescue helicopters carry 2 optical systems. The first is FLIR, forward-looking infrared. It detects your body heat as a thermal signature contrasting against the ambient background. If you are lying exposed on the deck with your core uncovered, FLIR can locate you from miles away. A thermal blanket wrapped tightly over your body will mask that signature entirely. Stay exposed. The second system is night vision goggles, which amplify ambient starlight and moonlight by thousands of times. Under NVGS, a cell phone screen does not glow softly. It blazes. It reads as bright as the sun against a dark field. This is your primary active signal, but timing matters. Activate it only when the aircraft is oriented toward your position. A light source the crew cannot see from their angle is a light source wasted. Florida law mandates that all airboats carry an international orange flag, at least 10 by 12 inches, mounted on a mast at least 10 feet above the waterline. That height is calculated to clear the sawgrass. Keep it upright and unobstructed at all times. It is your passive signal. The phone is your active one. The FLIR sees your heat. The flag and phone cover the rest. Dawn, pale gray gold light through the mist. The mosquito whine is gone. The sawgrass is finally still. The deck that held the perimeter through the night sits empty now. The rescue team came with the searchlight and the sequence is over. Stay. Manage the heat. Ration the water. Hold the perimeter. Protect any wound. Signal deliberately when the aircraft gives you the angle. None of it works if the first instinct wins, the urge to move in those first 10 minutes. Survival here was never about being rescued. It was about staying alive long enough to be found. The next time a gauge flickers or a belt starts to fray, you'll know which 10 minutes actually matter. Gear lists, reference tables, and the full pathogen breakdown are in the description. If this is the kind of systems-level thinking you want more of, subscribe to Gridfall Survival. New scenario every week. Prepare, adapt, outlast.